You already know what it is. Welcome to Third Degree Vibes, where real women have real conversations about life, love, career, and all the crazy ish happening in the world right now.
We're smart, we're bold, we're fly, and we say the things you're already thinking.
So grab your drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it. Because we got degrees, we got opinions, and we got no filters. Period.
Hey, you all. How are you? How was your week? How's everybody doing?
Ah,
Yeah.
spring has sprung.
Yes.
Officially. But it's
Did
been over.
anybody play any April Fools on you? I hate
They
that.
tried, but it didn't work.
I hate that. I tell my kids, don't call me on April Fools because I forget and I'll be upset and then I'll be mad.
And with everything we experiencing, like every day is April Fool's. So it's like,
Right?
okay, I really don't have
Ex-
time.
Baby, we
That's
at the circus.
right.
Basically. Basically.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah. But no, I've had last week was kind of rough. It was really
What's
kind of
going on? What happened?
well, I was supposed to go to this conference and I had to get up really early to make the drive. And just as I went outside to get in the car, put my coffee in, and I just happened to walk around the car, and on the other side I could see that the our gate was open.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately panicked. I ran back in the house, and my husband was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I said, "Where's the dog?" Because the gate was wide open. And he was like, "Oh my goodness." And so we searched the house, couldn't find the dog. And my heart starts pounding because that's my love. My kids are grown and we're empty nesters.
Mm-hmm.
So our puppies are just the ones that greet us and just love on us all the time. So I never thought I'd be one of those dog people, but anyway, my daughter's visiting. So she got up and I was supposed to be leaving, but we walking down the street, looking in bushes and everything, and it's dark. Okay.
Right.
So I had to go, but I was teary-eyed and everything. But my daughter, she just kicked into mini me mode. And I said, okay, as soon as I get where I'm going, I'm gonna create a flyer on my phone. I'll send it to you. You print it out and start canvassing. And so she did. And she didn't have any luck all day, but and I just put on a brave face when I was at the conference, but I really wanted to get back home, so I could do what I needed to do. So I I head back home. The conference is over for that day, and I head back home. And I live in Southern California. And anybody who lives in Southern California knows that the 405 is just a parking lot, period.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get on there and I'm like, I want to be home. I want to beam myself home. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I just start beating myself up, all of the missed opportunities to make sure. I mean, his name's Rooney, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And like, he's just really rambunctious. Anyway, he had a tag that I had his name on with our phone numbers. He lost that in the yard, and I didn't go get it replaced when I should have. Not only that, he's not chipped. And I was like, are we ever going to see him again? You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
didn't know how long he had been gone, and it must have been overnight, and I must have thought he was inside and shut the door. I mean, I'm just beating myself up because I'm like, you failed him, Adrian. You just, you're supposed to take care of him. Maybe you shouldn't have a
Right.
dog. I'm doing all the
Right. Right.
and
Blaming yourself.
right, which
Mm-hmm.
is what we do. Which is
Right.
what we And then I got to there's like this other freeway that crosses the 405, and it's kind of sort of three quarters or no, a third of the way home.
Mm-hmm.
I got to that part and I said, no.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped myself cold and I said, literally, I am not going to put any more negative energy into something that I want a positive outcome out of. And I started kind of my own mantra, and I just said, you know what, Lord, I put you on this. What am I doing? Not having faith. And I said, I am going to be so happy when Rooney comes home. And I said that to myself coming down that freeway, which was a crawl. So it gave me like an hour at least to keep saying that over and over. Radio off. I'm not
Right.
taking no calls. It's just me. And I'm saying this over and over and I'm talking to the Lord. So I get home. I ask if there's any updates. It's like, no. I print off some more flyers and I head back out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking down the street, knocking on doors and leaving flyers. And, I get to the end of the block. There's a post office there, and there's a taco truck that's always in front of the post office every night. And I said, can you guys put up a flyer? And they were like, yeah, no problem. There was a dog owner and his wife there, and they were really compassionate. And they said, absolutely, we'll look out for him and we hope you find him. How long has he been missing? I said, he's been missing overnight. Now I'm getting choked up, all the tears.
Yeah.
So I keep on down the block, and I remember this lady around the corner that had found him one other time when he got out. And I said, let me leave her a flyer. And then I'm like, okay, I'm about to run out of flyers, but let me go in a few more blocks. So I go in a few more blocks, pass out the rest of the flyers, and then I cut back over because I'm going to come home and make some more flyers. And I passed this apartment building that's right behind the post office I was telling you about.
Right.
And it has a full plate glass window. And I look over, I'm across the street. I look over and I see this mom and her daughter, like on the second floor. And they're in the hallway and they have this dog. And I'm thinking, that looks like Rooney. I must be tripping. I'm must be seeing things. But then I waved to her and they came down and I could tell it was him.
Oh my God.
I was crying. I was like, oh my gosh. And she said, is this your dog? I said, yes, his name is Rooney. And oh my gosh, they were wonderful. They had got him food, treats, and they had gone to Target, bought him food, treats, and a leash. And I must have snatched that dog. I was like, oh my gosh. And I said, you guys are so great. I said, I got to give you something. I'm going to go around there and they're going to be tired of me because I was just so grateful that he was okay. He's a small dog. And around here, there are coyotes. We haven't seen any in a little while, but they are pretty, they're around.
Right.
So, when they go missing, the little dogs, everybody fears the worst. But so I come home, I'm carrying him home because I didn't think to take a leash with me. And I'm carrying him home, and he's 15 pounds. He's pretty heavy. And I get to the door, I open the door, and my husband's like, oh, you found him? I'm like, yes, I told you I was going to get my dog back. And I was just so happy. But you know what? When everything calmed down, I realized what had happened. I think of it as manifesting that moment because from the time I was driving, down the freeway, I mean, if the freeway hadn't been slammed, I wouldn't have slowed down and had time to do a mindset reset,
Right.
If I hadn't run out of flyers, I wouldn't have had to come home right then. If I had gone back the same way I came, I would not have passed that apartment building. Everything had to line up.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it was just faith. And I literally the day after was like, if I can do that for my dog, which I do love him, I can do that for myself.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's about putting in the positive reinforcements. Why somebody told me, they said, when you go to just the negative, which most people do, they go straight to the negative. What bad could happen? And this is what we're focused. Oh, but what this? And it's like you're praying for what you don't want to happen.
That's true. That is true.
Right?
Yeah.
You're putting more energy into that.
Right.
So anyway, I got my dog back. Lesson learned, he has a tile on him, so I know exactly where his behind is all the time. He's getting chipped and he's got his name on. So if he thinks I'm checking on him too, I'll be sitting at home checking on him, looking on my phone like, hey, right there. No,
Uh,
so and he's looking at me like he just had a little, Airbnb vacation overnight. And I'm like, dog,
Right. And I'm over here palpitating. My heart's palpitating, looking for you.
yeah, right. And my
Wow.
daughter's chastising me and
Wow.
everything. But yeah, so that was my adventure over the past week.
Yeah, but that's such a great lesson though, like for all of us to like slow down and really get your thoughts in order. Cause you're right. When we are like frazzled and not thinking and not putting our eyes on God, we're giving energy to the wrong source.
Right.
Yeah. Mm,
Right. That I mean, and like I said, I understand that that's what we normally do, but I mean, it takes some conscious effort. I mean, because I was distraught. I was really upset. And I could put a good face on so you don't even know it, but um I was really upset. And it takes I used to think this mindset stuff was BS. I'm not gonna lie. But no, it's just like you just said. You're focusing. You're putting more energy into what you don't want to happen.
right. Exactly.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um, but that's the lesson for
Oh,
me.
that's good. That's I take the lesson as well. Don't you?
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, you never know what situation you're going to be in. And I'm always in traffic. And I'm like, okay, if I could just get there 5 minutes, quit faster, or, get around this and then drive up a mile and you see an accident. And you're like, okay, if I would have been 5 minutes earlier, that, could
Exactly.
have been, you don't know what could have happened.
Right.
Exactly.
Sometimes taking a step back and just
Mm-hmm.
being in the moment
Mm-hmm.
will
Sometimes
make
you're
a
where
big
you need to
difference.
be,
Yeah.
even though it's uncomfortable and we don't
Yep.
see.
Oh,
Sometimes
yeah.
that's where we need to be, right? Yeah.
And you know what? Not only being uncomfortable, but also appreciating
Mm.
things like, you
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
know, and instead of focusing on woulda, shoulda, coulda, just be like, I'm appreciative of where
now.
I'm at. I'm
Mhm.
appreciative of what happened, or, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
my
And
mindset is everything.
exactly. And I told you, I wasn't in for it. I was like, mindset. What do you know? That sounds very airy fairy to me, but no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it could be feel like a setback when
Right.
really a setup for something better, for something else. I mean, if anything, it I mean, even if I didn't get the lesson for myself, I got the lesson for don't hesitate in doing, don't delay in doing things that you need to do, because there could be a worse outcome,
Yeah.
you know, than if you had moved on. I mean, I had air tags sitting on my coffee table. They just didn't have the batteries in them. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So yeah, yeah, you're right. You got to
Yeah.
see the bigger picture. And sometimes
Right.
things seem like they're falling apart, but they're falling in a better position for you, you know?
I agree. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things going on now. There's a lot of people that are feeling, with all the changes. I mean, people have jobs, that they've been on for 25 some odd years and,
Mm-hmm.
losing those jobs, being laid off, just so many things are being disruptive in people's lives at this time. So it's important to kind of, even despite like what you see in front of your eyes, you have to try to see the good out of it. And I've learned that over the years. I used to be very immature when it came to situations that happened to me. Like I would feel like, oh my, this is the end for me because I realized that I felt like I was responsible for
Mm-hmm.
everything that went on in my life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was me, like I'm supposed to be in control. But when I realized that God allows some things to happen to you, sometimes not so comfortable, not so happy, to
Mm-hmm.
grow you, to prepare you for the next,
Yeah.
to mature you. There's so many different things, and there's always something good that
Mm-hmm.
comes out of situations. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you got Rooney back though. I'm very happy about that.
Thank you.
And I don't know how I know that too, I believe that the Lord touched your soul because you could not be on that freeway with all
Mm,
that traffic and be in a panic, think, you're thinking about your baby, you're
yeah.
thinking about this, frantic, and people drive crazy. So you had to be in the right mind. You had to calm your soul. So I'm very happy that you were obedient in that as well.
Yeah. And that's about just like what you just said before is about, or Sheila said, taking that moment and really pivoting and saying, no, I'm going to think a positive outcome. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to lean into my faith over fear
Mm-hmm.
and leave the frustration and as well. And,
Right.
just have, and it wasn't lost on me that an hour later I had him in my arms,
Wow.
so yeah, so that's my little dog story. So
Sheila, how was your week?
This has been a busy week. The kids have been out of school for the last 2 days, and it's not even spring break yet. So, been doing a lot of AAU basketball practice, and but one good thing that Adrian touched upon is like not just like taking a step back, but sometimes discernment. There would be things that kind of put you in your place to make you be like, you know what, Lord, I thank you.
yeah.
I'm, I'm grateful, I'm thankful. And
Mhm.
sometimes you just have to listen to that inner voice so that you make the right decision or you're led in the right path of whatever it is you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
One thing
And
I can say about Sheila is always positive. I don't think I've ever heard Sheila. I don't think I've ever heard Sheila like be like complaining.
Girl, I'm just going to say thank you
She always
because
like, Lord, just I'm gonna see the good in this. Like, and I used to be like, what? Like, huh? You ain't mad. I'm just gonna see, I just know it's gonna be a good outcome. It's gonna be. I'm like, oh, okay.
thank you because you know what? I think with age comes maturity.
Mm,
So there used to be times that I'd be like, oh, that's not about to happen. But you have to get to a point that you're like, okay, you know what? If that happens, then that's what it is. And I'm just going to deal with it from that perspective.
mhm.
right,
Because it takes so much energy to be negative and beat yourself up and, you know, kind of fall to the other side. But
right,
when you just kind of take a step back and just have a logical conversation with yourself and be like, yo, the outcome could be this if you
Mhm.
make the wrong decision.
right,
Like at
Mhm.
this point, I got too much to lose.
right, right.
But what's important about what you just said is because, see, if you're in the wrong mindset, then you can't maybe make certain moves that you should make. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's true.
And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be very transparent here. My husband's never gonna hear this, right? But anyway, 5 minutes into that whole scenario in the morning when I told you this all happened, he gave
Hmm.
me 5 minutes later. He was like, well, we're never gonna see him again. I'm like, whoa, whoa,
Oh
whoa.
no, no,
And you know, I'm saying that and I'm revealing that because in society, sometimes this is the way this world feels is that
mm,
it's just, is we've given up, you know,
yeah,
and we've got all this negative stuff around us. And it's hard not to be influenced by that. I mean, I literally had to shake that off and just not even listen to what he was saying, because otherwise I'm going to be influenced by that. Right. And
yeah,
my moves and what I do is going to be influenced by that. Maybe I don't even bother to make the flyer. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Because it's like, oh, he doesn't have a tag. He's a little dog. He's gone. No, but I realize for some people it's easier to deal with a negative thing because
mm,
maybe that's something they're used to dealing with negative.
mm,
They cannot conceive of staying in that like Reverend used to say, keep hope alive. They can't do it because
Right.
it's too much of a risk for them, for their feelings, for,
Hmm.
and so it is very hard to do
Well,
like.
it's comfortable sometimes to be in a negative because I've been there. I've been in a place where such a sunken place, like that. What's that movie? Get Out. I was in a place where I was like, it can. Your mind is powerful. Your
Oh,
mind is.
yes.
It can convince you. Like, if you say you're doomed, guess
Mhm.
what? You're gonna
Yeah.
be. But in reality, life will be going around and be butterflies and everything flying around, but you can't see it because you've
Yep.
chosen, like, okay, doom. So
Mhm.
Oh,
you're going to live in your own prison of doom.
Mhm.
yep.
So God gives us a choice, and he gives us free will. He can't say, tap you on your shoulder and be like, okay, Chris, you got butterflies all around you. You have to, you have to
Mhm.
stand on his word and be truthful. And I just think that it's just important for us not to get too caught up in self, because sometimes when we're so caught up in what we think, we forget what he says.
Mhm.
And in that point, it just gets us so far behind. And that's what Satan wants. He wants us to miss out on blessings because we're
Yeah.
thinking one thing and it's a whole nother thing. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
So the
And
mind.
mindset is contagious. If you hang around people that are just constantly negative and
Mhm.
Yes.
just I'm not going to just say it, have a bad outcome or bad perspective on how things could be, or just never
Yeah.
find the good in stuff. Like I can't be around people like that because that
No.
will just bring me down. So
Oh
Yeah.
I
my
try
gosh.
to make sure that my tribe is just as funky and fly as I am.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and you're so right. I remember, this was like years and years ago. It was some pyramid type of meeting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember this one thing this guy said. He said, listen, if you take nothing else from what I say tonight, if you have negative people within your sphere of influence, get away from them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I was like, that's just what she was talking about. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it will influence you. It can't help but influence you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That's
So
definitely true.
yeah, so that really, and when you have a personal testimony like that, I know it was about a dog, y'all, but it can you know change your outlook on, like I say, on other things, and realize, what are you doing? Am I beating myself up regularly in other ways and other things that I want a positive outcome from? How are you going to get a positive outcome from something you are constantly feeding negative?
Right. That's true.
Doesn't even make sense,
That's most
right?
definitely true. Yeah, I agree.
So, listen, we've got some questions, and
Oh,
yeah, we got some questions from some viewers,
come
and
on, bring them on.
so I'm gonna read the questions,
Okay.
and Chrissy and Sheila will give their take, and yeah. So here's the first question. It says, "What's one moment that felt like a major setback, but looking back, you know it was God setting you up?"
You want to go, Sheila, or you want me to start?
Why don't you go, Chrissy?
I'll go. Okay. One moment that I felt like was a major
Mm-hmm.
setback. Looking back, I know it was God setting me up.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I would say, setback. I would say one major setback that I did experience is when I was choosing like schools, uh,
Mm-hmm.
not just for myself, but for my kids. I put it like that. Okay, that's what I'll use. So with my children. So when I lived in Los Angeles, I wasn't my oldest. I didn't have my youngest as of yet, but I had my oldest, and um, I sent him to a school, a private school,
Mhm.
because I didn't want to go to the public schools that where we lived at. And the
Mhm.
school that I sent him to, I had all these promises, and in my mind, I thought it was going to be a great school. It was going to be challenging for him, and it wasn't. It was nothing to what I had anticipated for.
Mhm.
So in going to the school, and it's not just that school that he went to; it was another school that he had gone to previously. It just seemed like what the education I was seeking for him, he was not attaining that.
Mhm.
And it wasn't what we wanted for him. So I made the decision to, homeschool.
Mhm. Mhm.
And at the time, it was frowned about,
Mhm.
from family,
Really? Mhm.
friends. Oh, yeah, especially
Mhm.
my parents. I know
Mhm.
that probably, if they're listening, I love you, but you gave me, look, you gave me the blues. You gave me the blues. Okay. But I see that as far as that being a setback, it ended up being a set up because I was able to facilitate education for both my kids, and one graduated from college, um,
Mm.
the other one is in college.
Mhm.
So, I felt like what was so hard for me and devastating for me at that point, I feel like it was God's way of setting up a path that He wanted for my
Mhm.
children at the time.
Mhm.
Because my
Mhm.
biggest fear, you know this, Adrian, living in the Los Angeles area, was gangs. I just didn't, I was trying to um not shield. I don't know if shield would be the word because,
Mhm.
is shield, could I use, yeah, I guess I could say shield.
That's
Yeah.
right. Mhm.
I was trying to shield them from those elements and
Yeah.
just want, for your children, you just want them to have a better start. And sometimes when you go a non-traditional route, you're gonna meet um, adverse reactions from people that don't, that they're not familiar with it, or they think that you're doing a disadvantage. And
Mhm.
then years later, you come down to COVID. I'm going to end
Mhm.
this, but you come down to COVID and everybody got to be homeschooled. So you
Now it's
got,
in vogue. It's in
right,
vogue.
right. And you got folks calling you saying, Chrissy, what do you do here? Or this and that, or this and that. Or your parents that I told you gave me the blues are like, you said it. You was right. Look at everybody. You was ahead of the game. Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
sometimes God will, you'll have something like you said, it'll be a major setback, but
Mhm.
God will pull you through. But I've had a lot of those situations. That's just one of the actual situations I could come across. But there's been many. Um, I just think that it's important to be obedient,
Mhm.
and when he tells you to move and not get in
Mhm.
your own thoughts. Because
Yeah.
in that situation, I moved. I did what I had to do. Even though it was scary, I didn't know what I was doing.
Mhm.
I never had done this before, nothing. I
Mhm.
still moved. And at that time, it wasn't like everything on the internet now. God made a way, not
Mhm.
me. He made a way. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. No, no, absolutely. And I definitely can relate to that. Because well, I didn't, I don't think it was as similar to, I didn't put my boys in, or any of my children in private school, but I did move them to the district where I worked,
Mm-hmm.
which number one kept them close by so that if need be, I could get to them. Um, but it also was like, I thought, a better environment for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about young black males, so
Right. Right.
so I feel you on that. I really, and we're just trying to do what we think is, like you said, setting them up for
Mm-hmm.
best
Mm-hmm.
situation, to be in the best environment. So that's what I did. And um I don't regret it. At first, they really were opposed to it. They were upset. Their friends,
Yeah.
you know, grown up with prior to that were going to another school. And, so there was all this pushback. But just like you said with your family, sometimes you just have to push through what you think is best and have faith in you know, what you believe is the best and
Right.
be uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's always in that being uncomfortable, it's always a blessing in being
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah. Hmm.
absolutely. What about you, Sheila? What was something that you felt like it was a major setback, but really it was God setting you up for something better?
So for the last, I'm going to say 2.5 years, I've been dealing with a medical issue. But prior to me having this medical issue, I had no ailments besides like, normal stuff. I had asthma, but nothing major. No diabetes, no high blood pressure, no whatever.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, and it got to the point that I could barely walk, couldn't get up on my own, couldn't comb my hair, couldn't do a lot of stuff for myself. And being in that, like going from basically going 20 hours a day and just being having to be on it and to
mhm,
be in a position that of course at first I'm like, well, why is this happening to me? Like I don't understand. Um, but in hindsight,
mhm,
even though I felt like it was a setback,
mhm,
when as I'm going through it, like there's some things that have setback, but it's I had to kind of reevaluate my life in general. Like, okay, these are the things I want out of life, and these are the things I don't want out of life.
mhm,
Like, I know for a fact that, like, the jobs that I've had that require me to work, you know, in an office or in a field or in a hospital or whatever, and then still be available all times of day or night.
mhm,
I will not go back and do that. Like
mhm,
my life is too important for that. My
mhm,
livelihood, my kids, my family. And even though I maneuvered everything while I was, before I got sick, I'm like, that was crazy. Why would you do that? Like, that doesn't make any sense to put that much time and effort into somebody else's something instead of putting that same time and effort into my life or my priorities or things that I want to do for myself.
mhm,
Uh, but I'm still going, still have medical stuff I'm going through. But again, it's all about mindset. I can focus on like, why is this happening to me? I'm in pain 24/7, or I can focus on I'm on my healing journey,
right.
trying to get to my next figure out, or I want God to direct me in the way that He wants me to live my life and the things that He wants me to do to glorify whatever it is that He sees fit.
Mhm,
Because I can say, I want to do this, I want to do that. And sometimes I feel somebody tap me on my shoulder, like, girl, you're not getting ready to do that because you're not
Right.
ready.
mhm,
But I know that I know that I needed the time that, I mean, it was so bad that some days I would sleep like 20 hours and still wake up, like extreme chronic fatigue.
Mm.
Um, so I think that once you have people always say, oh, when after I had my stroke or my heart attack or whatever, and I'm thankful that I didn't have any of those things.
Mm.
But what I did have made me have a different perspective and outlook on things
mhm,
because
mhm.
we're here for a short time
That's right.
Right.
and we need to make it count.
Right.
That is so true. Oh my
Mm.
goodness.
I
Wow.
think what helped you to heal and be where you are today
Mhm.
is your mindset, Sheila. You're just a natural gangster. You just natural. I'm being honest. Like you just like you have to like pry things like not pry, but you have to ask her, Sheila, how are you feeling? Because Sheila's not gonna just be like, oh, call you, be like, oh, Chris, girl, I don't feel good, girl. I've been laying up here, my back hurts. She's not gonna say nothing unless you ask her. She
Mm-hmm.
just has the mindset. You know this, Adrian. She just has a mindset that is just like so strong.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I just didn't put much stock in that. But then when you think about, like you said earlier, how powerful the mind is, if
Mm-hmm.
if Sheila focused on the pain that she was legitimately feeling,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, that, you know, each one of us has gone through childbirth, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
the whole breathing exercise, if in case y'all didn't know, I'm talking to the baby, is to divert your attention, because if you concentrate on the pain,
Yeah.
Mm.
it
Yep.
intensifies, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
So she needed to, while still going through that, find a way to focus on something else. And from what she was saying is focus on her next chapter, on what she wanted to do. It gave her time to slow down, like I slowed down on that freeway, right?
Mm.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to really, get that mindset shift right then and there. I mean, we both had the opportunity to go either way, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But you took the opportunity to see a better outcome for yourself, and that is so you, Sheila, so you. But um
But the other really important thing I want to say is with me slowing, I mean, like sometimes you just get so caught up in stuff.
mhm,
So with I'm gonna say God making me slow down,
mhm,
it put me also in the mindset like you tap into the people that are there for you. Like me and Chris didn't talk for like maybe a year and a half. It wasn't because I love her or
mhm,
whatever. It was just like I can't do nothing. So like then you appreciate the people that keep on showing.
right,
And they don't
right,
have to call me every day or whatever, but like send me a message, send me a DM. Hey, are you okay? You need anything? You like whatever. And
mhm,
I'm gonna say about a month ago, and I didn't need anything. One of my girlfriends from high school called me and she was like, "Hey, what's your
Uh-uh.
Sheila.
You there, She's driving, so
Driving.
probably in and out.
She
Yeah.
asked me the same question.
There we go, there we
There,
go.
Sheila.
Like,
You.
I know,
Uh-oh.
Lord, yeah, understand. But
Uh-oh.
within that, because can y'all still hear me?
Yeah, a little
We.
bit, you're going
I'm
in and out.
sorry. They sowed seeds into me. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Because like whatever I have, I'm gonna make sure that everybody I'm connected to is okay
Mhm.
Right.
in every way, shape, or form. And y'all pour into me every time we have a conversation, not just on our days, but y'all pour into me in ways that I'm like I can't live without y'all. Like y'all
Oh,
just
the
keep
same
me
way.
full. Like seriously.
Oh.
That's good, because it kind of leads into the second question here. Somebody asked, how do you keep your faith strong when your reality looks like a failure? And I just love what you just said, Sheila, because we have each other, and
Mm-hmm.
we have family for sure, and we have, other loved ones and other friends, but you need that network
Oh
um,
yeah.
of people to build you up. I mean, I'll just tell you, you guys know this, but and my other friends know this too. It's like, listen, and my kids, by the way, if you call Adrian, okay, make sure. that this is where you want to go, because I'm not going to, I am gonna come down in the pit with you. We're not gonna do this. We're not gonna do this crying party. You can do that. I'm sure you have other girlfriends for it. I'm sure you do. But if you call Adrian, it is the cavalry. So we are putting on our armor. Okay.
Exactly.
We are fighting the good fight. We're not doing that. So make sure call the other ones first.
Oh, yes.
Because so I just am about lifting people up. I just always have. I lift people up more than I think I do for myself. People will
Me
point
too.
things out, and I'm
Mm,
Yep.
like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. And I just but in them I can see things, you know what I mean? I'm like,
mm,
this is why I loved coaching. I love coaching because I can hear self-doubt a mile away, and I'm like,
mm.
oh, we're not doing that.
Oh,
Right,
yeah. Yep.
Okay, just stop that right now. This is what we're
right.
going to do. But yeah, what do you guys think? What is how do you keep your faith strong when it feels like everything looks like failure?
Well, for me, I keep my faith strong in times like that by focusing on the good, like the times where things look bad or things failed and the good that came out of them. Like what I try to do is focus on my wins more than my losses,
Mm-hmm.
and how often God was there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because we tend to forget,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many wins that once you overcome that, you know, that terror or whatever, then you forget about it. And then you start, that's just human. We just go to the next thing. And if there's something going on or our faith is being tested, then, we can just end up forgetting everything. So I think it's just really important when, um, when you're facing failure or so-called failure, because I don't really think it's failure. I think that you should look at it as learning lessons
Mm-hmm.
whenever there's things that happen, adversities or changes. There's
Yeah.
always something to learn from. So I just try to, now in this age, I try to focus on the good of everything, like to try to keep my faith, and I focus on him, because my flesh always will have me like this, or
Mm-hmm.
this is it. But when I focus on him, if it just goes away. Like it just, I
Mm-hmm.
know people probably like whatever, but it's facts. It
Yeah.
does. It just melts all of those crazy thoughts that I might have, that little bitty faith. It makes it go away. So I just think it's very important just to focus on the wins and know that that the good is going to come out, and expect good. Like my grandmother, she used to have this little placard in her room, and it said expect a miracle.
Uh,
So that's what you have to do, expect a miracle in everything. And if you ever have seen like a mustard seed, Jesus said you only have to have faith of a mustard seed, and a mustard seed is so minute, so tiny, but it grows into this huge tree if you research it. So just give him a little bit of effort, a little bit of faith, and everything will be okay. And it just makes you feel better. We have enough on our bodies to, try with the food we eat, the environment, the pollution. We have enough that we already have to deal with, and adding stress is not good for us, especially Black folks. That's why we have high blood pressure and diabetes and everything. So we have to give it all. And if he says, give it all to me, then we have to just give it all.
mm-hmm. Yeah, we do in
Mm.
small and big things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, you're absolutely right. What do you think, Sheila?
I think that God always puts you through tests in order for you to have a testimony.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Uh-oh.
like, whatever it is that you're going to go through, That's just God saying, like, okay, you say you're obedient. You say you're going to listen to me. Say
Mhm.
that, you're going to allow me to give you the vision for the things that you want in your life.
Mhm.
How selfish could you be
Mm.
to be like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. I
Mhm.
don't know if this is gonna happen. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pay my car note. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to.
Mm.
And like the other major thing in all of this, like me being um, unwell for these last couple of years, it's taught me like I can sit here and be like, oh my gosh, I don't feel good.
Mhm.
And then I look at my kids and my grandkids and be like, they need me,
Mhm.
and I need them. So in order for me to get through whatever I got to do, drive this to this AAU basketball practice, make sure I'm showing up for them like they show up for me. Like
Mhm.
I got have to literally put things aside and be like, okay,
Mhm.
Lord, you got it. And but then after you go through your stuff and you have that testimony, and also it's selfish to not tell people like, yo, y'all just don't know the goodness of God, what He's done for me. Like
Mm.
I'm still here, I'm still standing.
Mhm.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
what I went through is a testimony of perseverance and just allowing him to be like, okay, you're gonna go through some stuff. I didn't say you're not gonna go through something,
That's right.
but you got to be prepared for when you go through stuff that it's gonna all work out in the end, no
Mhm.
matter what.
That's a good word.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, so let me see what the next question says. What does still being covered look like for you, even when the money's not right or doors are closing?
Mm.
Right?
Mhm.
I think for me, I'll just say that it goes back to what you've been saying, Sheila, and you, Chrissy, because what it looks like to us, it
Mm.
might look just like you were just saying about failure. What we determine failure may not be failure. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be,
Mhm.
right? And we are by our own will trying to force, there was a song, I'm gonna age myself right here. Everybody brace themselves.
Mhm.
If it don't fit, don't force it. And I
Yep.
remember that song, right? I don't
Right.
know. It was probably about something else, but
Right. Right. That's what I was thinking.
but it's so true. There's some reason why the round peg doesn't fit in the square hole, or vice versa. It's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
we see things as failures when really maybe the lesson was you weren't supposed to do that to begin with. He was trying to move you. Some doors needed to be closed so you can go open the right door, right? So I remember saying to an assistant of mine years and years ago, and I was always trying to encourage people to start their own business and do this and that and the other. And she was like, "Oh, but I don't have these skills like you. I don't do this like you, Miss A. Blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Oh, but you do this. You have these skills. God gives us all different skills." And she said, she literally said, "But what if I fail?" And I said to her, who but you and God is going to know you failed?
Mm.
Okay. See, because you only fail if you didn't try.
Mhm. Mhm.
If you don't try, you are guaranteed to fail because you're never going to start.
Right.
Very
That's,
true.
that's
What
true.
what do you think? How do you feel like you're still covered, even though maybe the money, isn't quite there all the time, and there's some hard times or doors seem like they're closing. What do you think?
Um, I think that like I said, this situation that I've been in, it's kind of given me a outlook on the things that I can look forward to. Um,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm rambling, but I did not have long-term care insurance
Mm,
before my last job.
mm-hmm,
And I'm sorry. I got kids in the background, but I did not have long term care insurance. I was not even thinking about long term care insurance. I'm like, oh, I don't need it, and
Right.
and then for whatever reason, this is the first time I signed up for it.
Mm,
So if I did not, I'm just gonna call it discernment. Have that type of discernment, like, okay, let me just go ahead and get it in case I do need it one day,
mhm,
and out of nowhere, because it was months of trying to figure out what was going on. And then when they finally did figure out what was going on, and because I listened, I'm covered. My bills is covered. The things I need to do for my son is covered. Um, and it just makes things, that's one less thing that I have to worry about.
right.
Um, but
Wow.
that's just the financial covering. But like a spiritual covering is that, like, God said we're never gonna lack. So I
Mm,
know that with my heart, that I know that there's going to be things um, that I want, but
mhm.
there's never going to be something that I need that I can't have.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. That right there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Chrissy?
I think the same that Sheila has said. Like, you know, our wants are, you know, overflowing.
Mm,
But he has already made a promise, and one thing is that he don't lie. So
mm,
he can't lie. It's just impossible. So trusting in that and knowing that that grace covers you is everything. And I think too, you know, I think we live in a different world now because we have social media. And sometimes, you'll be like, oh, well, what, I should be further, or I should be here, or I planned this. I don't know if you guys are like me, but when I was like 16, 17 years old, I had already mapped out everything. Like, okay, by this age, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna have to do this, I'm gonna be here to. So
mhm,
I think that maturity helps you to dissolve, those
mhm,
immature thoughts, and you realize being money is great. Of course, we need money to live. God knows that. He wants us to be abundant. You look
mhm,
at the people in the Bible, they were abundant. Abraham and Job, what I'm
mhm,
saying? They were abundant. And he does, it's not like he wants you to not have those things. But I think more than anything, having his covering and having peace
mm.
is everything. Because if you don't have peace, then you can't do anything. Money will not matter.
Nope.
Money will have you crazy. We have examples now of
Yeah.
people with a lot of money, and we
Mhm,
can clearly see that they are missing
mhm.
the true thing that gives them a covering. They're not covered. Your money can't cover you like the Lord can.
Mhm,
So I just think just having his protection, that's what I pray for most of all, like for my family, my friends,
mhm.
myself, is just his covering more than anything, more than money and all that. If you just ask for his covering, he going all of that will be supplied. you know
Right.
the money and doors
Right.
opening and folks hearing about you that you don't even know who they are, and they're like, oh, I such and such a referred me to you,
Right.
that kind of thing. So
Mhm,
that's what it looks like for me.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Peace is peace.
That can't be said enough.
Yeah.
So let me see. So the next question, next time I'm gonna pay attention to the names before I write the question down. But
Okay.
um, they said, have you ever had something stripped away that you were clinging to, like a job, a relationship, an identity, and it ended up freeing you? That was deep. I don't even know.
That is deep.
You know what?
So
I
many
mean,
things.
for me, and I think probably Sheila have a different answer, and you probably will too, Chrissy. But like what we were talking about in the last episode, we were talking about being adopted and our identity. And I told you, like, for my whole life, basically, I had made up this story in my head that was my story. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
my origin story, if you will. And so I was attached to that. I was really attached to that. And then when I met my birth father and found out the facts behind what I could never have had any knowledge of in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
um, it shook me. It shook me because I had built my identity around who I thought Adrian was. And yet after that point, after we met and we spent time with each other, I realized that letting go of that and realizing who I was still that person. So
Mm-hmm.
it was freeing for me. It was freeing for me to know that I didn't have to be what somebody else thought I should be. I was myself the whole time. So I don't know if that was confusing or not, but
No.
that was the biggest thing for me, that and you know, you think you know who you are, and then something comes and it shakes you up, and you have to kind of reintroduce yourself or reorient yourself to who
Mm-hmm.
you are. And that was a big time in my life, because it was very confusing, and I don't see myself as a confused type of person, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
what do you think? I mean, have you had anything that was kind of just stripped away that you thought was going to be there, and you thought, this is, you know, this is what is for me, but then in the end you realize, you know what, that was the best thing that could have happened?
Yeah, I would say me having a childcare business. I had made it into like an idol. I wasn't happy
Mm.
doing it, but I was, you know, still doing it because it was, you
What you
know,
did. Yeah.
it was good money, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And I was like, okay, I could be home, I could do this, I could do that, that kind of thing, but it still restricted me.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like unfulfilled. Like I was like, my husband, he would remind me, like, do you remember you used to say, I have these degrees for no reason? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't use, all I
Wow.
do is change diapers all day.
Oof.
I was like, I did say that. He was like, yeah, you used to say this. I think he was like very unhappy. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing for anybody. I'm saying it's a good thing. It's a good living for folks. I'm not saying that. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, I believe that um, it freed me when I didn't have it any longer.
Mm-hmm.
And God started allowing me to grow. He allowed me to start having more confidence in certain things that I could do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes you'll stay in situations, and that's the type of person I am. Like if something is comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'm cool. I'm gonna just do this. I'm just gonna stay in the cut and I'll do this. But sometimes he wants you to take the next step, the next leap, and
Exactly.
other things. So most definitely, I think that, um, and it happens to a lot of people. They go through transitions in life. It ends up being a better
Oh
thing
yeah.
for them. It makes them see, okay, well, let me use the gifts that you've given me. Like I told you guys about the oil, using your
Mm.
oil
Yeah.
and not allowing those talents to be buried in the ground.
That
So
was a sin. Do you remember that?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Uh-huh.
Yep, absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, but
Yeah.
that's it for me. Yeah.
I love that. What do you think, Sheila? You know what's ironic is it's you being in the childcare industry that we met, even though we were from the same hometown, and
Right.
how you met Sheila as well. So, but just because we're in a certain chapter doesn't mean we're going to stay in that chapter. We're going to turn to the next chapter at some point.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Right. So what do
I'm gonna say something about the gift that Chris gave me, like the gift of she educated my child, and
you?
I was thought about homeschooling, and everybody was like, "No, don't do that. Like he's gonna be this and he's gonna be weird," and
Yeah, they're gonna
but
put the skill.
hindsight, I mean, they were just it was just like, oh my gosh, there's no way that, and especially black kids. They were like, black kids aren't homeschooled. And I'm like, okay, that's crazy. But anyway, but Chris allowed me to see the things that my son had, and he excelled in school to the point that he pissed some teachers off because he was kind of like, but why we gotta do it like that?
Right.
Um, but
Questioning.
Yep.
exactly, exactly. But I think things that I've been attached to, I'm not going to use relationship because goodbye. But for a job, everybody has to have a job to survive or have money to survive.
Mhm.
And I think I put up with a whole lot of stuff that I would not put up with now. I'm
Amen.
not getting ready to cuss nobody out or act crazy or nothing like that. But like if I was going through those situations now, I would like literally just walk away. Like it
Right.
wouldn't be worth me staying there and being miserable and driving an hour, hour and a half to get to work to be someplace that people are not. I mean, like they don't have respect for you.
Mhm.
They don't value you as a person and don't value your time.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because yeah, at
Yes.
at this point, I would be like, okay, thank you, but no, thank you, because
Mhm.
it's not worth it.
Mhm.
I understand how important health is, and like people will work for 20 years like, I hate my job, I hate my boss, I hate my commute, and like do something else. There are
Yeah.
Yeah.
so many things like y'all were saying, God has given you gifts.
Mhm.
And like I used to paint, I used to do
Mhm.
poetry, I mean anything art, that was my thing. And then I just stopped doing it.
Mhm.
And then when I got well, just before I got sick, um I started doing like the hand knitted blankets, and I still do that. I have all this yarn at home, so if anybody wants a blanket,
They are beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
yeah. But that's to me that's a gift because I just looked. Shy had gotten married, and she's like, "Oh, I want one of these," and we went to this whatever kind of store, and I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not about to pay for that." So I went and got some yarn. Literally looked at a YouTube thing for like 30 minutes, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna figure it out,"
Right?
and
Wow.
I just did it. So
It's so
yes.
Mhm.
funny how many things we have in common. I mean, I literally was in the store because I'm expecting another grandbaby any day now. And I was like, this might be my last grandchild. I don't know. And I've never done anything. I mean, I used to crochet as a kid,
Hmm.
but I hadn't done it in forever. And I was like, I saw some yarn. I was like, I'm going to do this. And my girlfriend, she said, I never took you as a hooker. She meant as a crocheter. Do not put any comments to that. So I bought this beautiful yarn, and I've just been sitting down trying to remember to go get it when I'm watching the baseball game or the football game or whatever I'm watching, and get this done before the baby comes. So I feel you. It's and you know what? I mean, yeah, it's just so funny how we were so much alike. So next
We're
question.
related.
Yes,
I
Yeah,
we're
mean,
y'all.
like,
this is my cousin.
seriously.
This is my cousin. Go back to the last episode and you'll understand what we mean. Next question. They said, how do you handle feeling behind when everyone else around you looks like they're winning?
Keyword
Ooh.
looks like.
What'd you say?
Keyword looks like. Looks like.
Looks like it's
Hello.
like,
Yeah.
Okay.
hey, you
Okay.
know, I can talk about that out here in California, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm near Hollywood. Everybody looks like
they
they're
look like.
trying,
Yeah.
but they not. They not.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Ferrari.
Yeah,
They could be driving a Ferrari and like pulling up to a shack.
right.
So, you know,
Eating sardines and pork and beans.
And
right.
they
Yes,
just
ma'am.
rented the Ferrari. Okay,
Right.
don't get it twisted. It was for the
I love this question. Because like I said, the keyword is looks like, but I've learned and growing up, I was always taught like you mind your own business. Like, my grandmother was very country, so she would say stud. That means like thinking or pondering or looking at somebody else. Like, don't be studying them. That's what
Oh,
she
oh, I remember that word. I
said,
remember that word.
studying
Mhm,
them, right?
mhm,
So that's my thing. I don't when I see someone doing well or accomplishing something, that's great because my thing is I believe that God has something for each of us. And
mhm,
I've always been taught that if you see somebody else being blessed, then
mhm.
that means yours is on the way,
That's
you know.
right. That
And really you can't get caught up in social media or things like that. You have to, like I said, just worry about your own path
mhm,
and what's going on with you. um,
mhm.
and focus on your blessings and stay, like Sheila said earlier, like in a grateful place. Stay in gratitude for the things that you have, because you could get messed up by scrolling and looking at somebody else. And, and people will perpetrate. I know
Mhm.
people that, and I'm just going to say it, okay? I know some people that are
Oh,
on
Lord.
social media, and they will be like showing like all the highlights, like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
this or I'm that or I'm this or I'm that, and my love and my me and my man, we love each other so much,
yeah.
and they're fighting like cats and dogs.
Mhm.
And you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, what I'm saying?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like just perpetrating. You know,
Things are not always as they appear.
right? And when I've always been taught that if it's like true, or if you balling, you really don't even have to show anybody that you're balling. Like you could just see, like, wow, they're really doing it, or wow, they're really in love, or you don't have to yell it to the world. So I just think back to that is don't get caught up in highlights. Don't get caught
Mhm.
up in scrolling and looking and thinking and looking at what Joe Schmo is doing over there. Just concentrate on your own path and focus on what you want. Stay in line with that, because all of that is distractions.
That's right. And you might miss your blessing because you concentrated on my blessing,
Right.
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the scary part is that, people focus so much on material things too.
Hmm.
Um, like what kind of car somebody's driving or the house. And I'm just like, I'm thinking in my head, like, that's a bill. You got a Mercedes, you paying $900. You got a 800 or $1 billion home, your mortgage is crazy.
Yeah.
So you have these things, but you're like, but you can't live life like you want to because you're like paying for things.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I think like the biggest thing for what that I try to instill in my kids is like, you don't have to get no crazy. I mean, get someplace to live, make it a home. I'd rather have experiences than things. I'd
Mhm.
rather travel than, live in $1 million home,
Mhm.
because personal
Yes.
property taxes and everything else that comes along with that.
Fact.
No, thank you.
Fact.
Yeah, but get me a round trip ticket to another country.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I would rather, even with my family, I would rather have us have experiences and to
Yeah.
do things. I mean,
Mhm.
of course, you got to invest in stuff and make sure you have money, but
That's good.
a big
That's
house don't matter.
Mhm.
mhm. That's
Reliable transportation, that's it.
that's that maturity, Sheila. What?
Yeah.
And look,
Oh.
it took me a while to get there.
All
It
of
took
us.
me a while because, I mean, everybody wants nice things,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but like, I'm just like, I'm not out here trying to showboat for anybody. I'm
Mm-mm.
gonna, I'm not gonna, say, of course, say the person's name, but literally, I know somebody that posts rental cars and um, places that they don't have no business being, and mm, they
They just went up
just
and they took the
they
picture.
ain't they ain't living right. But I'm like, okay, but why? Like
Yeah.
who if even if you are impressing someone, even like the 1 or 2% that are like, oh my gosh, they
Mhm.
have an amazing life.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I mean, does
Did
that
you
make you
know
sleep better at night? Does that put any money in your pocket? Like, I don't know.
No.
Is that a sponsor?
No. Right.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Right. That's true.
All right,
That,
so we got a couple more questions. So what helps you trust the process when the process is quiet?
oh,
Damn.
mm,
Okay.
mm,
That's a really good question.
That is.
mm,
That's gonna take some thought. Hmm.
mm,
I think the trusting the process, that goes back to faith. I mean, like,
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
if
Yeah.
you know that God is going to show up for you no matter what, even if you feel like you're not worthy and you're not worthy, and but God is like, I don't care. I'm still going to show up for you, and the things that you envision, I'm going to like give you, double for your trouble.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I would
I like that. I
that's
like.
what I would
mm.
say. I mean,
What do you think, Chrissy?
I think that when it's quiet, that's when he's doing his work. Um,
Mm.
his time is not the same as our time.
Mm-hmm.
What we see is not what he sees.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's when he's developing us even more so. Like Sheila said earlier about, the test and being a testimony. I think
Mm-hmm.
it goes back to this too. Okay, I'm gonna get quiet because I need you to trust me because maybe a couple years ahead of this, he already knows what's gonna happen.
That's right.
You might have to deal with this, and this. So I need to build you up and build that muscle up in you now for this that's coming ahead of you. Doesn't have anything to do with what you're asking for now because I've already done that. That's done. That's
Mm-hmm.
already, it just has to manifest for you. But I need you to trust me. So I think that it's just important to just remain diligent and faithful
Mm-hmm.
in the fire process.
That's good. That's
Hmm.
really good. Um, yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Just yeah, just trust and have faith, right? Over
Mm,
here all the time. You have to sometimes we have to remind ourselves of that, and sometimes I have to ask for favor in that way. Lord,
mm-hmm,
please help me with my unbelief or help me with my
mm-hmm.
failing faith. You have to get reinforcements, but we have that base that we can go back to and just remember, like I said in that moment, I'm like,
Right.
oh no, I'm not going to surrender my faith. I
Mm-hmm.
always have my faith. So, the next question, we only have two more. The next question is, how do you silence self-doubt and survival mode when you're in a season of waiting?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Ooh.
For
Mm,
me, I mean, I post an affirmation every day.
mm-hmm.
And I think it was you that reminded me because I always thought, I posted on my page and I was saying it was for me, okay,
Mm-hmm.
to start my day with this positive affirmation. And you reminded me, this was some years ago, you reminded me, you said, Adrian, you never know who's seeing that and who
Mm-hmm.
needs that. And I don't know if I ever told you, but my oldest son called me one day. I was pulling into Costco parking lot and I was like, what's wrong? What's wrong?
Right.
And he said, Mom, I just had to tell you, the affirmations, and he's seen them, he's my friend
Right.
on Facebook or whatever. So he's seen them every day. And he said, I just had to tell you that I needed that one today. And the
Wow.
ones you put up, it reaches me when I need them. And
Oh,
and
that's
I was
awesome.
it made
That's
me
really awesome.
right. I
cry.
mean, spoiler alert, you guys, when your kids get grown and they can turn around and say, you were right, Mom.
Yeah, that's a winner.
Woo,
Oh
that feels
yeah.
good. But to know that, and I'm really close to my children, and I love talking to them. Each one of them is
Mhm.
different. They have different
Right.
perspectives. We have different conversations, obviously, but they teach me things, or they have me look at it something up from a different perspective. I'm sure you two can relate, but when we have those moments where we are in alignment and we understand, it's just amazing. And I mean, that's those moments, like Sheila was just talking about, moments or experiences
Oh yeah.
that That's priceless, right?
Right.
I couldn't have paid him to do that.
No.
I mean, literally, I'll tell you something. I'm gonna tell y'all, you're gonna laugh about this, and I want to get your perspective. But I had gone out of town for a couple of events about a year ago, and so I wasn't at home. And then I came back into town, and my husband was like, "Oh, let's go to dinner." And we went out to this restaurant we had not gone to before. And so we were sitting there, and I honestly think the waitress forgot that she took our order. No, no kidding. But we're sitting there, and I'm talking to him about I don't even know what, but my back is to the restaurant, and his face, he's facing out towards the restaurant. And this
Right.
lady comes over to our table, like, and she stands right at the edge of the table, and she goes, "I just had to come over and tell you that whatever you're saying to him, he is so into you." And I'm sitting there, and I'm giving my husband the side eye, like, I know you paid her to come over here. I'm not listening to her at all. I'm like, what? Who does this? You know what I mean?
Right.
I was like, really, Steve? That's a bit much. But she was like, no, I just tell you, he's really into whatever you're saying. So bringing it all back, when my son called and said that, I mean, it was just one of those moments when it's like, dang, you're really into what I'm doing, what I'm trying to manifest for myself. I'm sharing with you, you know. So I don't
Mhm.
know if that related, but anyway,
It
what do you,
did.
Oh, definitely did.
It did.
so what do you guys think? How do you silence the self-doubt and when, and you're in survival mode, when you're literally in this waiting period, you know?
Um, for me, I'm I'm a I'm in progress with this question. Because I've just learned, like you said, the affirmations,
Mm-hmm.
but I talk back to things like the self doubt or
Mm-hmm.
trying to leap. Like, you're sometimes you are like, especially when you're an entrepreneur, you get in that mode where, okay, what's next? Like, so it is kind of
Oh,
like
yeah.
survival mode where
Yeah.
you're like, oh, what, I got to jump it, I got to do this, so that your mind is always racing, like, so you got to find the answer. You have to find the answer.
Right.
So I've learned and I'm learning to not jump into survival mode because survival mode will get you in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And self doubt is nothing but lies.
Mm.
So I try to not focus on both of those bad aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, I focus on who I am. And I know this might be, people might say, she's so religious or whatever. I'm not religious. I just love Jesus. Okay. But when you're a daughter of the Most High, my
Yeah.
daddy owns this whole thing, this whole caboodle. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to sit up in, first of all, I don't have to live in survival mode. First of all, not if my daddy owns everything.
Yeah.
And another thing is, why would I doubt myself when he's the creator and he created me? So I must be bomb. So there's no reason for me to even doubt
That's
myself.
right. That's right. Exactly right.
So does it not make sense?
Okay.
Oh, hey, so
That
that's
makes sense.
Make it
I
make sense.
right.
Yes.
So
Yep.
yeah, those thoughts. I'm not gonna just sit up here and be like, oh no, I don't have those thoughts. Yeah, but when they come, I'm starting to use my armor where I'm
Mm.
like, hey, no, it's not true. You're lying. That's
Mm-hmm.
not true.
Mhm.
Talk back to it. Basically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tell them get behind you.
Get behind me.
Mm-mm. What do you think, Sheila?
um, self-doubt is that's kind of like allowing a narrative that you don't want to connect yourself to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so again, I see your affirmations almost every day, Adrian, and
Do
I and
you?
I and I read them and I like them. And look, I touch and agree to make sure that, like, again, all those positive vibes are coming my way. And
Yes.
um
We
and
stand in agreement. We
it,
stand.
with everything, yeah, exactly. So like there's so much that you can attach yourself to. So I'm trying to focusing on attach myself to positive things, positive outcomes,
Mm-hmm.
positive movements, positive connections, anything positive. And of course, there's times that you're like, oh, woe is me. But the quicker you snap out of that mindset, because it is a mindset, the closer you are to whatever victory is going to be
And
bestowed upon you.
that's just your vibe all the time, like Chrissy.
Mm-hmm. That's
But
her vibe.
I mean, I was explaining this to somebody. They asked me what imposter syndrome was. Turns out they knew, they just didn't think I knew. And I said, and this is crazy, right? For me, in my head, you guys know I'm very visual. So in me, is somebody jumping from behind my sofa saying, you're a fraud, you're a fraud, you don't know what you're talking about. And I had to have somebody tell me, this was a few years back. I was thinking of, well, actually, no, she encouraged me to write a book. And I wasn't even thinking about writing a book. And I was like, what do I write about? And she told me, she said, you have been in an industry for 20 years. Are you kidding me? Do you really think you don't know what you're talking about? And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that's true. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
like, it comes and it comes for a lot of us. Even my mentors and stuff, they'll admit to having that imposter syndrome. And it's like, really? But I get it. I totally get it. But just like she was saying, and you were saying, Chrissy, to remember, you know,
Yeah.
like entrepreneurs, we move on to the next project and we're on to the next. I've forgotten things that I've created, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and stumbled upon it. I was like, oh, that was really nice. And then I looked down and it was something I made. And I was like, whoa, I totally forgot because I moved on. But
Right.
God doesn't like that. He wants, He gave us those thoughts to create those things. We
Mm-hmm.
need to acknowledge those and be
Mm-hmm.
grateful and appreciate because not everybody has those talents, right?
Right.
You were just telling me before we got on that you were cooking, and it's not that I can't cook, y'all. I can cook. It's it's just not my jam. So, but some people are excellent cooks. You know what I mean? And some
See,
of us, you
it's a
know, I couldn't get the gelatin to gel. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, okay. I got one more question. And I don't know if Notre Dame has left these questions today. I don't know what's going on, but
wait. Let me make it. Can I interject something,
yes,
please?
yes.
Sheila's going to have a cookbook coming out too,
Oh,
audience. Just know that her cookbook is going to be coming out soon.
yeah,
It'll just look out for it June.
yeah.
So look out. Link will be provided as well. So just want to put that
Right?
Absolutely.
excellent
It'll
cook.
be in time for the
Absolutely.
holidays, right, Sheila? It'll be in time for
Oh,
everybody like me to.
for my personal holiday, June.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, June,
Yes.
Oh,
baby. June.
yeah.
It's a Gemini thing.
Gemini. Yes.
At them
Me too.
Geminis, Lord help us. No. Okay. This is the last question. It says, what's your mindset shift? What's your mindset shift when you start to spiral and think maybe I'm not called for this? This kind of goes back to what we were just saying, right? And what we've been talking
Mhm.
about all day.
Mhm.
Is you know, there's always, I don't know why, it just seems to be human nature to go to the negative. I'll be
Mhm.
talking to another woman about something, and it's like, but what if this happens? But what if that? It's never nothing good, you know,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
always the bad, the worst, you know, and
Mhm.
it's like, why don't we just for a change think about what if it doesn't happen?
Mhm.
What if it does go positive or something like that? So for me, I try to stop myself like I did on the freeway and say, oh, okay, this doesn't make sense. It has to logically make sense to me. So me putting these negative vibes, this negative energy, all these negative thoughts, how is this going to turn out positive? It's
Mhm.
not. It's
Right.
hinder.
There's a comment that, like a statement that people make, like, expect the worst, but hope for the best, or something like that.
Mhm.
Right.
Like, that's the worst statement to make.
Right?
I, why would you expect for something bad to happen,
Mhm.
but I hope something good happens? Like, and it comes to mindset. Like, I think the people that I've been listening to, whether it's like a Audible book or whatever, or people on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, when somebody says, like, part of the reason you don't understand this or you're not receiving it is because of your mindset. And it just means you're not ready. It doesn't mean that you can't be ready, you can't get ready, but like
Right.
your mind is so important in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That is
I
so.
played basketball for a new school this year, and the coach was like, he's just not ready yet. And
Uh,
I kept on telling him, like, like that's one person's opinion. Like,
yeah.
and they take it for what it's worth. But like,
Mm.
but in the right mindset and with the right people around him,
Mm-hmm.
yo, Taj think he is Michael Jordan, LeBron James.
Better
I
than
mean,
he's better than them. Okay.
what? And he talking about, "Mom, as soon as I get this money, you gonna get this house, this house." And I'm like, okay. I'm waiting for it. Cause I'm not gonna tell him anything different.
Right.
Okay, that's the mindset you have. And every time he comes out of practice, how you look today, how what did you think you need to work on? What was
Yeah.
your strengths for today? What was your weaknesses for today?
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, what are you gonna work on, tonight? Are you gonna lift tonight? Are you gonna run tonight? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you have to hold people accountable too. It can't
Yeah.
just be like, oh, this bad thing is gonna happen, but I'm gonna pray that something good happens. No,
Mm-mm.
ain't no bad happening.
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna
Right.
get to my destination safely. I'm gonna make it back home safely. Whatever
Exactly.
I touch is gonna be fruitful, and
Right.
that's it. That's the mindset I'm gonna keep on everything.
Mm. I love that. Mm, mm, mm. Well, those are the questions that we've had for today, and I appreciate those questions. They were really thought provoking because, but it all comes back to mindset, right? It just comes back to having that faith, and even though things can feel like they're falling apart, trust that they might actually be falling into place, you know,
Exactly.
and that we need to learn how to shift our mindset from frustration to faith, and that's how we get those positive outcomes. That's how we put that positive energy into it. And that we can look at, say, a current setback and just ask ourselves, what could this be setting me up for?
Mm. Right.
Right. So, Chrissy, do you have any closing thoughts for today? This was good.
It was good. I do want to say that I have this little picture on canvas in my office, and it says, "What if I fall?
Mhm.
Oh, but my darling, what if you fly?" It's
Yeah.
down to your mindset, and just so that you know that setbacks are setups, basically.
Mhm.
So you can't allow, you know, this world and what you see to deceive you. You have to just keep your mind on what the positive, just like Sheila said earlier. That's just the biggest thing. Don't
Mhm.
expect a negative outcome. Focus on the positive.
Yeah, that's good. That is
Amen.
good. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it really is
It
what,
really, really is.
yeah.
Mhm.
Mm. What are your last words, Sheila?
Um, I feel like mindset is something you can work on a daily basis. Like it doesn't have to, you don't have to spend hours. You don't have to go out and purchase something. I mean, and it could be something, and I'm not gonna say small because praying is not small, but getting up in the morning praying, you know,
Mhm.
taking a few minutes out of your busy day just to like meditate for 5 minutes. And
Mhm.
then like something that gives you joy or makes you happy or makes you think about things in a better way,
Mhm.
keep those things or those people close to you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, Chrissy, you want to take us out?
Um, yeah, I mean, you want me to take it out? I'm just gonna let you know that these are my words, that setbacks are setups, detours are direction, and closed doors. Baby, those are divine protection. So don't
Mm.
lose hope when things don't go as planned. Sometimes plan B is the blessing.
Ooh.
Amen.
Oh, yes.
If you're
What you
still
gotta say,
breathing,
Sheila? What you gotta say?
if you're still breathing, you're still in purpose. Trust the process even when it's quiet, and even when it's confusing. You're not going backwards, you're just being repositioned.
Mm.
This has been Third Degree Vibes. And if nobody told you today, you're still chosen, still covered, and the story ain't over. Thanks, you guys,
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank you. See you the next time.
Thank you.